Evening, everyone. This is Planning Board for February 26th, 2025. Pam, you want to take attendance, please?
Sure. Michael Gore,
Here.
Austin Groner,
Here.
Michael Lau,
Here.
James Barr,
Here.
and right now Eric Nyland is absent and Robert Romer is absent as well.
Okay, so this is supposed to be our public hearing to review our proposed bylaw changes. Doesn't look like we have a big crowd. So Pam, maybe what we can do is, you said you updated the slide deck. Um, so I think what we can do maybe is just sort of go through the slide deck, do a quick overview on each of the proposed changes, and just sort of see how much we think we need to see during or say during a town meeting.
Okay.
Um,
Eric just
also,
logged in just for the record.
oh yeah, Sam. Um, and Pam, you and I are going to meet with select board tomorrow to review these as well. So I don't know how much time they gave us. I think we'll keep that one a little bit later, probably.
They gave us 25 minutes.
Oh, okay. All right.
So
That's
there's a
fine.
good amount of time there.
Okay. All right. So you want to put the slides up and maybe
Yeah, we
we'll step
just
to
want to
this.
probably read the public hearing. We still have to read the public hearing notice.
Oh,
I'll share that.
okay.
Hello. There we go. I can read it if you'd like.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks.
The planning board will hold a public hearing pursuant to Mass General Laws 40A, Section 5 on Wednesday, February 26, 2025 at 7 p.m. via Zoom communications to consider and receive comments from interested parties concerning proposed amendments to Chapter 250 of the Town of Bolton zoning bylaws to appear on the warrant of the 2025 annual town meeting. The articles are summarized as follows, and I'll just read the headings if that's okay with everyone.
Yeah, that's fine.
Amendments to Bolton zoning bylaws, accessory apartments to allow for a new section for accessory dwelling units. Amendment to Bolton zoning bylaw, section 250-24A for scenic road bylaws. Amendment to Bolton zoning bylaw 250, section 250-22 to delete the existing floodplain district bylaw and replace it with a new floodplain district bylaw as required by FEMA. Amend zoning bylaw 25018 of the sign bylaws to delete the existing bylaw and replace it with a new, more expanded bylaw. Section 250-23 for site plan to change jurisdiction from the select board to the planning board. Amendment to zoning bylaw 250-14 to the FOSBIRD to increase preservation requirements and incorporated design process. Amendment to Bolton zoning bylaws to add a new section 250-23.4 for the cottage district overlay.
Okay. Thank you. Um, and you want to bring the slide deck up?
Yep. Is that working?
Yeah, it's tough to see it like that. Can you put it into presentation mode, maybe?
It is on my screen. I'm not sure why it's not.
No, there it is. That works.
Did that work? Okay, it might have just
Yep.
taken a minute to change on the internet. Okay.
Okay, so the quick overview on this one is we are updating our existing accessory dwelling unit bylaw. Is our bylaw only for detached accessory dwelling, or does this bylaw affect both? It's both, right?
This will affect both. We're actually just going to delete what we have. We refer to accessory dwelling units as accessory apartments in our bylaw.
Okay,
So we are proposing, and the new state definition combines detached and attached into one definition for 900 square feet and 1/2 the gross floor square area or smaller into one category. So we only separated them if they exceed that threshold. Does that
Okay.
make sense? Our
so I mean,
existing,
yeah, we're changing our existing bylaw to conform with the state's bylaw and then allow larger larger ADUs above and beyond what the state allows by right.
yes, to conform with what we currently allow.
Yes, and our
We did,
max, so go ahead.
I'm sorry, that we just wanted to keep what our bylaw currently allows. In compliance, we had to create 3 different definitions.
Yeah. And as far as what's permissible in town after this change, maybe go to the next slide. Um, as far as what's permissible, nothing is different from our existing bylaw. It
No,
just separates out what is allowed by right and what requires a special permit. Oh no, is a special permit can't be required?
so what happened was special permits cannot be required for accessory dwelling units as defined in Mass General Law for the smaller units. So we created the 2 separate definitions and didn't think it would make a whole lot of sense to require special permits for units that were only 900 square feet to 1,200 square feet. So we changed them all to require site plan review.
So special permits no longer required for detached and site plan review for only detached or for both detached and attached, since it was by right
We
before.
did site plan review for all of the units
Okay. Okay.
without public hearing and a butter notification. So it would just appear before the board as an application on a regular agenda item with 48 hours notice.
So this bylaw exists only to conform to new state laws that were passed in 2024. Is that right?
Yeah, they became effective. The definition became effective in, I think it was October, and then the regulations which prohibited requirements of occupancy and special permits came into effect on February 2nd of 2025. So just this month.
So that is the one difference with this new bylaw is that owner occupancy is not mandatory. And that is by the state, not by us.
Correct.
Okay.
We currently require it, so we're required to amend our bylaw to remove it, at least for the ADUs as defined in the MGL.
Okay. I mean, and you know, kind of what I want to do is just be able to convey the differences between what we allow today and what this change will do. And so brings us into conformance, still maintains the maximum size that we allow currently today. The only difference being that owner occupancy is no longer required for one of the dwellings. Is that correct?
You can't require it for any, the
Any
single
of them.
family or the rental or the
Okay.
ADU. I'm sorry.
Okay, so they could both be rentals in that case.
They both could be.
Okay. Anyone else think there's comments we should bring up with that?
Just it prohibits short-term rentals in the MGL and our bylaw. So our bylaw prohibits transient and short-term rentals, so that'll prevent Airbnb and that type of use of either the single family or the ADU.
And that's already prevented today. We don't,
Correct.
so there's no, yeah, okay. Right. I mean, I think this one should be pretty straightforward. Again, no real differences from the town's point of view.
These are the 4 changes really, besides our definitions.
Maybe we put that one first. Or again, you know, Pam, you and I talked like if we want to have a slide at all, have one slide and maybe one or two slides showing the maximum sizes and what the state changes were that we're now applying with.
Okay. And a lot of confusion we're seeing on our end, including the Board of Health office, is that these units are exempt from zoning setbacks or Board of Health requirements. So those requirements to we're not allowed to waive those requirements, but we just created this slide to emphasize that those building code, wetland protection, Title V, dimensional zoning setbacks are all still apply to the accessory dwelling units.
Okay.
And just so people don't think we're going to get hundreds of these, I just outlined we've allowed accessory dwelling units since 2015 and we've only approved 6. So there hasn't been a ton of units created, though it's certainly been more publicized.
Okay, great. Anyone else have any feedback on that? Okay, moving on. The scenic road bylaw. So this amendment is to clear up some typos and some non-existent roads on the existing bylaw. And so the roads that we're adding, is that because we think Town Farm is Farm Road and Delaney was supposed to be Willow at some point? Is that why those are wrong?
Yeah, Delaney is in Bolton and turns into Willow.
Mhm.
But Willow's not actually the defined street name in Bolton, so we're changing that. Farm Road, was previously referred to Town Farm Road.
Hmm.
Spectacle Hill Road is just listed as Spectacle.
Yep.
And Annie Moore is just listed as Moore. So while we were changing all the names, we just wanted to correct them and make sure that they match the current street names. It's not really going to affect anything. There was a typo in the MGL reference as well, so we're just correcting that. So this is really just correcting things that are in place. We're not adding or subtracting anything at all.
We're not making Farm Road or Delaney Street a scenic road when they weren't before. They were already scenic roads.
Yeah, and from what I can tell, they've already had scenic road applications on them.
Okay.
So it was interpreted as for the correct street names, but we just want to correct it
Yep. That's the right way to
officially.
do it.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And that I just want to mention that I did give a brief overview at the select board meeting on February 13th. And one of the select board members had some input and wanted to request that we consider incorporating all streets within the town of Bolton as scenic roads. So I just wanted to relay that comment, and we might talk more about it at tomorrow evening's presentation.
For the record, I would not be in favor of that at all, but others may disagree on the board. Okay, that one's pretty straightforward. No
Yep.
questions on that, right?
No.
Okay.
Anyone? No, it's pretty simple. It's probably the simplest one.
Yep.
And then the floodplain is, as you know, we've talked about it a bit. It's required to be changed to conform with FEMA requirements and our updated maps. The maps are available now. I posted the changes to the planning board website along with the amended bylaw. And this slide just highlights the changes. We had to expand upon the purpose, reference the updated maps, include specific language identifying the enforcement mechanism within this section of the bylaw. I identify the floodplain administrator and their responsibilities, which has been added. And we renamed the 100-year floodplain reference to the 1% of the base flood elevation as required. And we included required definitions and recreational vehicle sections.
And so sorry, Sam, Pam, you said on the website you put the floodplain, okay, so you have the existing, the 2025 map revisions and
you want
the
me to pull it
revised
up on the screen
bylaw.
or do you want to go back to it after we're done?
No, I just want to make sure it's available. So,
Yep.
I mean, this
Oh,
is the
sorry.
picture that the map differences. Yes, this is what you're showing. Okay. Oh, the one on the website is a little bit different.
There should be 6 panels there
Oh, I
that
see it.
have
Okay. Yep.
changed. Yeah. So I just took a
Yep.
snapshot of one of them as an example. The green's being added and the red's being taken away.
And what is the shaded green?
The
Is that being
bluish
added also?
area,
No, the hatched green,
that's
like in the,
added to the
okay.
floodplain. Those are additions. And then the red
And
is deletions.
There's also a light green. What is the light green?
That's the existing floodplain area.
Okay, there's
where
a
are we actually, is this the whole
is,
town? What are we actually looking at?
I don't know what portion this one is, but I don't want to go out of slide. Can we go back to it?
Yeah.
Or I can minimize this and bring them up if you want to hold on. This is
Sure.
just a picture for the slideshow. I can't really see too much. Yeah, we're all on panel sheets. FEMA does, I think we have 13 total. These are the only 6 that were revised and have changes because they only did the Nashua
Mhm.
River watershed.
So where in town are we looking at there? Is this,
I can't even tell. I can
okay.
bring up the others. You can see them better. I just took a little snapshot to show this.
See, that looks like the whole thing that's on the
No, this is
website.
just one panel. It should be,
Okay.
yeah. Let me,
Oh, I see. Sorry, there's more pages there.
there should be, yeah, 6 pages there.
I gotcha. Okay.
yeah, if there's a way to include a legend for the colors, that would be helpful.
Sure. It's on the maps themselves, Austin.
Yeah.
But I can add it to the slideshow. That's a good point, just so we know what they are.
Got it.
Well, and again, I think all anyone is going to care about is my house now in a floodplain and it wasn't before.
Yeah, I didn't see any new structures added to the FEMA maps.
Okay. And they would call that out if a house was included in one of the added areas.
Not necessarily. You'd have to go by the maps and tell.
Okay.
To tell.
Now we've updated these maps every year. I don't know that we've ever, not every year, sorry. Whenever we've updated them in town meeting. I don't know if we've even put a slide up. We're happy. I mean, I'm happy to include that. But again, it's more of all, anyone, the only thing anyone's going to ask about is, am I now in a floodplain? And our answer is we don't think so. But even that doesn't change. That has nothing to do with us adopting the maps. Like these are the new maps.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
They apply whether we adopt them or not, but the correct maps should always be referenced in the bylaw.
Gotcha. Okay. And that's a good way of planning it. Okay. Anyone have questions on that? No. Okay. So next one is the sign bylaw.
These just highlight the changes to the sign bylaw. We've had some interpretation issues about what a sign is, so we expanded upon the definition. We've allowed signs by right that meet the bylaw requirements, so they don't have to go for a public hearing before the board. They can just be reviewed by the building inspector and be issued a sign permit. We limited one building sign for each use in a building, and then we limited one freestanding sign per lot. And this is for the commercial and industrial zones. I'm sorry, business, the business, limited business and industrial zones. We defined and limited window sign coverage. We expanded on the temporary signage that's allowed. And we, again, expanded, I have the definition in there twice, but I'll change that.
Was the sign bylaw not, I mean, we do have home business signs in residential districts, right? Does that not apply to
They
this?
are, they're allowed up to 2 square feet. So it's pretty small, but they have to go to the, select board to get a sign.
So we're not taking that bit of it. This is just for,
That remained as it is.
okay. So,
But
so
if it
we're only,
meets the bylaw, it doesn't have to go to a board meeting. It can just be issued a sign permit.
it doesn't have to go to a select board meeting.
Correct.
Okay,
So if
I,
it's
sorry, I
still
thought you
square
said that
feet-
what's that?
I was gonna say, so it's, if it's still 2 square feet, they don't have to go before the select board, but if they want it bigger, then they do have to go.
Yes. That's the changes we're proposing. Right now, everything has to go before them at a meeting. Except street numbers.
Okay.
Say that again,
So the,
what you just said?
Right now, all signs go before the select
Yeah.
board at a meeting except
Yeah.
street numbers.
Okay, and now
So
the
even
only
if
thing
they-
that will,
Even if they satisfy the bylaw and meet requirements, they have to go to a meeting.
right,
Trail
but now
signs, everything.
but now it's just if they don't meet the bylaws, it's kind of like a variance, sort of.
Yes, they have the option to request a waiver if they go before the select board.
Okay.
Just seems like a lot of time was being spent on, and delays were being spent on signs that conform to the requirements. So we just tightened it up and hoping for a smoother process. We kept all the
And-
dimensions the same.
and Pam, just to be clear, so when you said this applied to limited business and business and industrial, it really applies everywhere, right? Residential also, because of the residential signs?
Yes, any home occupation would
Yeah.
have to go.
Yes.
Yeah.
But does not have to go, right? If it's 2 square feet, if it is within,
Right.
yeah, okay.
It does
Okay,
right
that's all.
now. It wouldn't under
It does,
this
yes,
amendment.
it does say.
Yes.
So now if anyone has a conforming sign, sorry, if we adopt this, anyone with a conforming sign does not have to go to select board.
Correct.
Perfect.
And if there's a question about it, then you can require they go before the select board.
Mhm.
On temporary signage, that's talking about like A-frames and stuff like that, that people put up. It's not mentioning like political signs, right?
No, you're not allowed to regulate that anymore. I know it's in a lot of existing bylaws, but it's become
Okay.
yeah,
I
freedom
was
of
just making
speech
sure,
issue.
because we've been asked a couple of times to do stuff with political signs, and we've always said no, so I just wanted to make sure.
That's the way it currently is. The proposed changes would allow one per property.
One political sign?
One temporary sign. We don't define it as a political sign.
Oh. Not sure. What do you think about that, Mike? Like, sometimes people have 2 candidates they want to.
Yeah, I mean, we've certainly never enforced any sort of I mean, the one thing that I think we in the town that they enforce political signs is no political signs on public property, private property. We
Yeah,
don't,
that's
we don't
mass
do anything with
general
it.
law.
Okay. So how does our temporary signage work today? I mean, I assume it also only allows one. And do we exempt things like realtor signs?
Actually, that's the only temporary signage that's permitted in the bylaw. Is for home sales.
Oh, so political signs is just like, that's not included.
It's
you know?
not addressed in the current bylaw.
Oh, okay, so you can have a few of them up and it's not gonna meet that
You're not-
one.
You're not supposed to, the way I've understand it's historically been addressed.
Yeah, but if someone challenged it, they would challenge it on First Amendment rights and most likely win. So that we just don't afford that. I mean, I think the main point here is that we're not changing any of the existing rules around this stuff, only what the person who wants to put the sign up needs to do in order to get it. Is that accurate, Pam?
Yeah, I mean, we've added some more definitions and we allowed for recreational trail signs because right now they're not permitted and have to go before the select board as well. So we added a section on that and I'll put that in as number 7. Um,
This one we might want to have another slide on, at least for to borrow, because they're or you be able to speak very eloquently on it. Because they, again, some of the board members of the select board may want to keep this purview and others may not. So kind of all depends.
okay.
Okay, anything else that people want to talk about on this one? Okay. Next is site plan review. And so I'll see if I can explain this one. This is for, so this is only for certain structures that have that wouldn't be coming to the planning board directly anyway. Our zoning bylaws still mention that site plan review is required by the select board, who then almost always immediately turns it to us to actually to do the review.
Actually,
And
the
this,
bylaw requires any expansion of a building or construction of a building in a business, limited business or industrial zone that it requires a special permit to the planning board, but the
Mhm.
site plan has to go to the select board.
I see. Okay, so even though we're doing a site plan, sorry, a special permit for a structure, the select board is being asked to do a site plan review.
Right, yeah. So,
Okay.
so it's just that didn't apply to the high school because they're an exempt use, so you can't require the special permit for a
Yeah.
public school building or any school building. So that site plan went to the select board and then got referred by them to you.
And this was probably also the case with 580 Main Street, which was an
Mhm.
existing building, and they amended their existing special permit for that one.
Yes, they amended the special permit and got the site plan approval.
Okay. So again, from the board's point of view, this was, something that is always brought before select board, but then they refer it to us anyway. So we're just cutting out the need for someone to go to an additional select board meeting just to have it referred to us anyway.
Yeah, it can hold up a project a good month going through that process. So this will just streamline it.
And is there any reason why the select board themselves would ever want to do site plan review? And Pam, maybe we can explain, like, at a high level, site plan review is reviewing possibly stormwater management, maybe things like parking. What else is included in site plan review?
Grading, site egresses, site distance, lighting, building facades. You can do traffic if it comes into play is necessary. Building facade. There's a whole list.
Okay. And is it accurate to say that that the select board owning site plan review is probably just vestige of before there was a planning board in town?
I can't say that for sure.
Okay. Because for sites that needed a special permit, I assume they're hitting two separate bylaws at that point, if they needed to do site plan review with select board and special permit with us.
It combines it in one paragraph. anything that requires special permit. Any addition, construction of any building in a commercial, business, limited business, and industrial zone requires site plan review.
And that's the existing bylaw.
Yes.
It's not typical for select boards to do site reviews, right? It's usually planning boards or zoning boards who do that.
Yes, it's very unusual.
Okay, okay. Just checking.
It also doesn't make sense to separate the special permit authority with the site plan authority because you have more. It's just more cohesive to review both together.
Reading through the existing bylaw. Okay, I'll review this before we talk.
Yeah,
this.
it's 23F is the site plan
Yep.
portion of it.
Because I mean, so my statement is definitely not correct that this is just something that existed before before there was a planning board, because 23F talks all about how planning board does this and select board does that. So that's weird. Yeah. This is one, like, I don't know if they would give us pushback on this one to say no, they want to retain the ability to do site plan review, even though they really aren't set up to do it. Okay. All right.
This
fine.
was discussed with the previous town administrator, Don Lowe, and then when Marie came on board, she agreed it made more sense to be under the jurisdiction of the planning board.
Yep. Okay.
And it seems like the last few projects they have just unanimously deferred it to you for vote with an authority without any sort of comment other than we keep them noticed of our hearings.
Okay. All right.
Which we can still continue to do without problem.
Yeah. Anyone else have comments on that one? No. Okay. Next one is Phosphid update.
Sorry, this slide just reviews the current
So the two main things that this bylaw change will do is increase the amount of open space required, moving it from, is it 33% or 30% today?
It's 30%. And it increases it to 50.
Yeah. I just wanted to get the existing number. So 30 to 50%. And that brings us in line with most other towns, other neighboring towns for Phosphid. In addition, it calls out a 4-step design process that how do we phrase this? That allows the planning board to have more input in the layout of an existing property to use it to its, most efficient manner. No, that's not.
Yeah, you have to go through a identification process for preservation areas as your first step. So that ensures that your valuable open space gets protected, and that's laid out in the bylaw. It considers things like vernal pools, scenic vistas, and there's a list in the bylaw.
So basically,
soil.
allows the planning board more input earlier in the process.
Yeah.
That's kind of like, I'm just trying to sum this up in,
Yep.
some way.
And then the soil testing as well, but that's currently required, but they make them consider it more in the design process for both the stormwater and the septic systems to ensure that the most suitable soils are utilized for the septics and stormwater systems. You locate the house sites and these are further defined in the bylaw, but there's going to be regulations which even provide more detail into the process.
Mhm.
And then you add the street alignment and trail networks into the project and then the lot lines as your last step.
Anyone else want to add anything to that?
I thought it was impressive on the previous slide, there's 403 acres preserved with our phosphid bylaw. That's
Yeah,
a lot of area. That's pretty great.
that is great. Okay,
And then
next one, cottage overlay district.
I still have some work to do on this one, but
So that first slide that you had there, Pam, is that somewhere existing?
that's Concord, the Concord
Concord.
Riverwalk.
Okay.
And I pulled it from the Randall slides that he did for the public forum.
Yep.
And then this just gives a cookie cutter subdivision with things that we're trying to avoid: auto-reliant development, disconnected, large footprints, energy inefficient, infrastructure intense, consumes green space, expensive to maintain, limited housing options, and large carbon footprints.
And that picture that you're showing, is that meant to be a bad development?
Yes.
What we want to avoid?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not to be nitpicky or nothing, but when I read that, I thought it was saying we were trying to do those things. And I got halfway through the list and I was like, wait a second. And then I had to reread it. Might be something to maybe emphasize.
Maybe creating alternatives to
Yeah.
large subdivision development.
If you skip
Okay.
over the word alternative there, you kind of miss the point.
Okay. I'll emphasize it and change the wording.
You know, we may not use like I wouldn't necessarily use this slide in it. You know, Pam, you and I talked, maybe we keep it to 3 or 4 slides. And really focus on pictures of developments that we do want.
Mhm.
So I could see someone seeing this and be like, oh God, I don't want that, thinking like that's what we're proposing. So that's something to consider. I don't want to call out my least favorite subdivisions in Bolton, but we could do that if we had to. I won't.
Might lose a vote if you show a picture of someone's house on there. So I just outlined
on
our
that
current-
last slide, even if you say something with bad qualities, such as just, put it in red or I don't know, something.
Okay, yeah, I'll highlight it.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, it's also, we want to, the first or second slide should say what we want to do. So the way we're doing it right now is basically saying, like, here's the things that exist that we don't want. Here's our 2-acre lot size requirement, blah, blah, blah. Like, I would put what we're trying to do first, and then we can sort of talk about these other things.
Okay.
Just as far as order of
Switch
slides
it.
go.
Okay.
Just to give people again, the main the phosphorid and the cottage overlay, they kind of work hand in hand, where the phosphorid tries to protect more area in existing subdivisions. The cottage overlay tries to give us more housing variety, as opposed to protecting areas. And speaking of which, Pam, so you mentioned you got feedback about cottage overlay where they said we could even reduce the amount of open space that was required.
Yeah, they said the purpose might make more sense to reduce the open space within the cottage overlay if, just to meet the purpose of the bylaw.
And
They
there,
suggest, it was Andrew Shabbat from the Bolton Land Trust. I don't think he was speaking on behalf of the land trust in their entirety, but he provided that comment.
and part of that was because we're allowing septic and other shared services on the open space.
Right.
So they
With-
don't necessarily want to own that space.
Well, they didn't comment on that. They just said it make more sense to increase the phosphid and then open space requirement and decrease the cottage overlay just to satisfy the intents of the two bylaws.
Okay, next slide.
So this outlines the purpose to provide alternatives to large lot size requirements, decrease impervious area, preserve open space and limit land clearing, create uniquely designed pedestrian-oriented development considerate of the rural surroundings, provide missing middle housing for those starting out and downsizing, diversify housing options, and increase affordability.
Go and increase at the bottom, but
Yeah, I'll go through. There's a few typos in there. I'll go through and
okay.
fix it up.
Okay.
And then I pulled out some survey results from the master plan process regarding housing. Residents expressed highest interest to increase housing options for seniors and families with children. Residents expressed concern with Bolton's expensive homes. 20% of Bolton's households are cost burdened. That's supposed to be burdened. Public forum, I have to change this. I just did it quickly before the meeting. Public forum residents expressed desire for increasing housing diversity and affordability options.
And I asked Pam to put that slide in to say, we're doing this basically as response to what people told us they wanted in the master plan. So we're doing this as directed feedback from existing residents.
And then these are goals that were satisfied from the master plan housing section through creation and adoption of this bylaw.
We're also not mentioning that this was something that was tried previously, right? I think it's.
I didn't mention that, no,
Okay,
because and it's quite different than the previous attempt as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good strategy.
When someone asks, I'll certainly, say, yes, we did. And we took the feedback from that and made changes to it.
Okay.
And then I know you said there were concerns with water at the last meeting with density and people's water supplies. So we just emphasized we utilized Title V compliant densities to ensure viability. It increases stormwater treatment requirements to ensure groundwater recharge within parcel boundaries, and it requires affordable home production to ensure proportionate increases to our subsidized housing inventory.
Is there a definition for SHI, Pam?
I
It
can
Our
seems,
spell it
affordable
out.
housing stock.
Yeah. It's our
Okay.
subsidized housing inventory. That's the 10% threshold that you're required to meet through the state.
but is it
Would
is
be-
it is it subsidized in some way by the state of Massachusetts or?
Need restricted,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, it depends. They get subsidized in that they don't have to adhere to any local bylaw requirements. They have funding mechanisms through approved funding agencies. So there's various sources that they can go to for low interest funding.
I see. Okay.
And then I have to simplify this a little, but this goes through the bylaw requirements. Dwelling units not to exceed 1,850 square feet, maximum of 3 bedrooms. They can be standalone or up to 4 units per building. 15% of the units must be affordable. 20-foot setbacks between buildings, 50-foot offsets from property lines, a 10-acre minimum, and a 50% open space preservation requirement.
Now, do people think that this slide should be earlier in the thing?
Yes, I do.
Or
I
Yeah.
feel it should
It should
be.
probably be, yeah, it should be before the last few for sure.
Yeah, agree.
Okay.
Did we want to go,
then-
did we want to go through, I don't know, I looked at this earlier, maybe you added to it, but like number of units and how that gets calculated, or is that, I don't know, like, if we want to get
Um,
into that?
did we,
It's just, yeah, it's gonna be, it's 10,000 square feet per bedroom, so I can just add that in.
But do we want to give like an example how, I don't know, sometimes too much information is,
yeah,
Not
like I
needed.
would, like I would take off the setbacks from there.
Okay,
No one,
well, that kind of gives the look and feel a little bit, but maybe, but what I'm saying is like, on a, depending on, just to try to bring across the point that we're trying to build smaller units, and that if you say it's 10,000 whatever square feet per bedroom, but if they divide up the bedrooms into a smaller units, then they could get more dwelling units. If we want to talk about developers can increase the number of units if they build smaller, I think
we
we should
could-
talk about the density.
we can
bonus
get into
somehow.
that, but I think that's too complicated to put on the slide. What I would put
Okay.
on the slide is something saying that the number of units is natural, effectively capped by the septic requirements. So you can't have hundreds of these units on a property just because of what the septic requirements are. And like in
Yeah.
in a appendix slide or something, we could have that number if someone really was pushing on it.
Or it's just say something like gives developers the ability to increase dwelling units, decrease bedrooms and increase dwelling units, capped out at the max.
Yeah.
Something
And-
like that.
And so as far as who presents, I mean, again, like I said, I'm happy. I will for sure present the cottage overlay. I can present some of the other ones unless someone else wants to do some of them. The cottage overlay, I will spend some time explaining how the main purpose of this is to create, diversity in the housing stock, hopefully some more affordable starter homes for people, and options for existing seniors to downsize and stay in town. Like those will
Yep.
sort of be the goals of what this is trying to accomplish.
Yep.
And so
Yeah.
later on, then we can talk about how, developers can put more units in by making them smaller. And so we've deliberately capped the square footage of these to have a different style of house built in town than what currently gets built.
Yep. Yep.
That sounds good to me.
And the whole bylaw will be printed in the warrant, right? So I mean, people
Yep.
will be able
Yes.
to read
Yeah, they
the
can
details.
read it if they're super interested.
And people might like pick up something that's wrong or not understand it, and they'll probably come with that question anyway. So
Yeah, could be.
you'll probably most likely have to go through kind of like a scenario with a question from the audience, I think, potentially.
Yeah, most likely.
So to sit there in the presentation and go through the nitty-gritty details probably isn't necessary.
Yeah, and again, it's one of these ones like a few years ago when I did the detached ADU. I don't think I had a single question
Yep.
about it. So you just never know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
in
yeah, that's yeah.
town meeting. And And so I would keep these, keep the slides sort of pithy and to the point, and again, more pictures is better, trying to show people those sorts of the sorts of things we're trying to encourage with this bylaw, the sorts of developments. Okay, next,
That was it.
that's everything. Okay.
Yep. I
And
put this.
yep, and so I mentioned to Pam earlier that this one, I'll probably have this be in an appendix if people really care about it. I don't want to scare anyone off thinking like, oh my God, they're gonna build, 50 cottage developments. Again, this just shows potential, and these are really just parcels, not even necessarily buildable areas. But so that's why I
No,
don't want to put,
it's simply parcels that are 10 acres or more in the
Yeah.
orange. That's
Yep.
Yep.
And so I don't want to, put something out there and scare people into thinking like all these places could be built. So again, I try to put everything into an appendix, and if someone really needed something, then we could look for it. But
I forget, did we end up leaving something in there saying how much this could be utilized? Or we kind of took that all out?
no, we took that out.
Okay, that's fine.
because you don't want to put that in the bylaw, right?
Yeah, yeah. that's
I don't think that's permissible to say you can only use it for this much and then you're done.
okay.
I mean, I've never seen anything like that. I don't.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we put it on the last one, but it didn't make it to the AG's office, so I don't know what would have happened anyway.
Well, we capped the number of units, right?
Well, that's what I was talking about, but
Yeah.
Pam was just saying she doesn't know if that's allowable anyway, but we never
Okay.
got to the point to find out.
Okay, so that's everything.
It also could, I mean, theoretically result in a rush to get projects permitted.
Oh, if we had a number in it, yeah.
Yeah, if you had a maximum
Yeah.
number that could be developed under a bylaw.
I mean, things have been so slow lately that
Yeah, I'm not saying it would
worried about.
happen, but theoretically, you could.
No, not even that. I just
Yeah.
mean in general. Like I would be super thrilled if someone uses this bylaw. We'll see if anyone does. Okay. So that's all of the 7 proposed zoning bylaw changes. All right, so that's our only piece of business tonight. We have some minutes to approve, and then Pam, is there anything else that you want to go over?
No, just that we're still waiting for town council review of all the bylaws, so we're requesting that the hearing be continued to the March 12th meeting.
Okay, so I will make a motion to continue the public hearing on the proposed changes to the zoning bylaw until March 12th.
Second?
Michael Gore,
Aye.
Austin Groner,
Aye.
Michael Lau,
Aye.
Eric Nyland,
Aye.
James Barr.
Aye.
The hearing's continued to March 12th.
And we will most likely have feedback from select board tomorrow also.
So Pam, you and Mike are going to the meeting, going through these slides tomorrow?
Yes,
I'll try to watch.
Okay.
I
Be nice-
posted it just in case we had a quorum, so
I mean,
feel free
we
to.
used to have like a dedicated group of people who would come to these meetings and kind of like shoot everything down, which was at least good because you'd get the questions that you would get. But with nobody showing up, it'd be nice to hear some questions.
Be careful what you ask for.
Yeah.
It's nice to get used to like, how you're gonna get attacked.
Yeah. I mean, realistically, the cottage is the only one. Everything else is really, I mean, the people who might, be annoyed about the sign and site plan are select board, not individual residents, probably. Okay. So Pam, any other business that we need to talk about? Anything coming up next month that you know of?
No, just we're probably have a agenda item for a recommendation for Goose Pond Path coming up.
Okay. Have they made progress?
They made some progress. We have a revised abutters list where the only item outstanding at this point is the title report. So once that gets all received, they'll go to the be placed on a select board agenda, for intention to be laid out and then referral to the planning board for recommendation.
Okay. So we have meeting minutes from December 4th, it looks like.
Yes.
So I will make a motion to approve the planning board minutes from December 4th, 2024.
Second,
Michael Gore,
Aye.
Austin Groner,
I
James Barr,
Aye.
Eric Nyland.
Aye.
The minutes are approved by a vote of 4-0. Mike, you were absent that day, it looks like.
Okay, anything else that we need to cover?
just
No,
one
we're
random
good.
thing was
Oh, yep.
yeah, 2 seconds.
Yeah.
My son's daycare, the owner of my son's daycare in Marlboro approached me. She had known that I was on the Bolton Planning Board, and she said that she almost bought some land in Bolton, not too far from the town hall, I think. I think it was the tax sale that you were referring to, Pam, somewhat recently. And she said she almost bought the land, but she approached some developers, and I guess it didn't go so well. But just just to share that at least she was thinking of building a daycare in Bolton, which would be,
Oh,
Oh, really?
I guess, the only one that the town has. So
daycares are an exempt zoning use, just so you know.
say again.
Daycares are an exempt zoning use.
I see. So those can be in residential. They don't have to be in any sort of commercial zoning.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah, I forget exactly what you said about why it didn't proceed, but she said she was still interested and to let her know if there's any possibility of land coming up for sale. So I told her I'd keep my eyes open.
I think daycares would be a public water supply.
Gotcha.
So that might have been the issue. That Main Street lot was undersized, so she might have run into an issue with meeting the protected well radius area.
Gotcha. Okay. Which lot was that, out of curiosity? Was that across from town hall?
It was opposite town hall, down on the left more. I don't know. It's right around that area. Yeah, it's a few parcels down.
Okay.
I actually have a question about the last meeting. I didn't attend, but I watched it. On the discussion about the lots at Century Mill, the ones along Century Mill Road.
Yep.
Did we determine that like that's those lots are not the same as like A&R lots? So like, you can't, like the ones in the front couldn't build in a way such that the other ones become landlocked then, I guess. So that's kind of why you have to treat it as a
Well, I mean,
development.
that was the whole discussion, right?
Yeah.
Is as far as I'm concerned, and it sounds like everyone on the board was concerned, that those lots are part of a subdivision, right? Always meant to be served from a road through the
Mhm.
subdivision and not from Century Mill Road.
Right. They were
And
never looked
that's
at.
why we're skeptical of what they're asking to do. So I mean that's one piece of it, and just the part of like we're not releasing any lots from the covenant period. Even if we released a lot from the covenant, we aren't issuing building permits either, because it's regardless, it's still part of the subdivision.
But I guess like I'm not advocating either way. I'm just trying to understand. But like,
Yeah,
say somebody owned all the lots on one side of whatever the road was, and they're like, "Well, we just want to build a common driveway 5 or 6 houses up on the side."
that was the point
Yeah.
that I brought up, was that if they did it with this lot, who's to say that someone doesn't come along and say, oh, I want to build a common or a shared driveway to these other lots in there, and now we can do that.
So, but before we do that, it makes sense because then if there's some house at the end that a common driveway couldn't, then they're like, well, what are we gonna do now? Nobody's gonna want to
Yeah.
build a road to this lot. And I
Nope,
paid for it.
exactly.
So you almost
I
have to
mean-
like, what do you have to do? You have to dissolve the covenant or something?
I mean, that's really the question that I
Well-
don't, yeah, so Pam, maybe you, like,
The
they've parceled out all
subdivisions-
this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
go ahead.
subdivision at this point's expired in default, so we're not. They're not eligible for permits anywhere within the subdivision, and this particular lot has restrictions along the frontage of Century Mill Road, which requires a buffer, and it has a drainage easement as well as a site distance easement. So that restricts the frontage of Century Mill. So those were the reasons that
but
we discussed at the last
I
meeting.
think Eric's sort of bringing up the bigger point of like, you know, what does happen with this, with those phases of the subdivision? Like,
Yeah.
can somebody dissolve that subdivision? I mean, so people own all of those lots.
Yeah, I mean, there's people
And-
who bought these lots thinking maybe they could build on them, and now it's just kind of like trapped.
And so someone needs to come along and pick up this, this defunct subdivision.
Mhm.
And are they now, required to do all the stuff that was in the existing? So I think what Eric's point was, what I was thinking too, is like, can that subdivision be dissolved? Can someone say, nope, this is no longer, we no longer want this to be a subdivision. We're going to file a new subdivision plan to do something with all the lots.
Yes.
Like, is that how they would do it? Okay.
They could, yes.
Yeah. And that would get them out of the burden of all the other things that went along with the previous subdivision.
So it
I
sounds
believe
like
so,
these
yeah.
owners kind of like bought into like an HOA sort of, where they have to come together maybe and figure out some plan.
Yeah.
But
Everyone in lot 1 and lot 3 would, I think, if they ever want to build that, probably needs to do that process of either they pick up the existing subdivision or they create a new one through it.
Can we provide that information to those residents so they at least know what their options are? Or I'm sure they've tried to explore, those
I
options.
mean, I think it's like holding groups, like,
Yeah.
Okay.
It was for the most part not individual homeowners. It was
Yeah.
like Lamson Lumber and
I see.
Yeah.
other people that
I'm not really
I-
sure how that happens.
Yeah.
yeah,
Those lots shouldn't have been legally conveyed to anyone.
I'm
Yeah.
also confused about the latest sale. It seemed like this guy just bought it kind of hoping that it would work out.
well, so he was one of those people who bought these lots, I guess, from Andy, thinking
Okay.
that they'd
A
be
long
able
time
to.
ago.
No. This was a tax taking. So the
Yeah,
the
this
town
was
auctioned off.
a recent sale.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
So
was
I mean, if
puzzling to
sorry.
me.
yeah, if someone ever builds the road, then like they own that lot and
Yeah.
can build on that lot.
Also sounds like that lawyer kind of like read it and was like, well, this frontage, you should be able to build. And now she's like, uh-oh.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, and then even if they did have unrestricted frontage on Century Mill Road and if you take this lot out of the subdivision, it doesn't comply with our lot area requirements.
Right.
So that's another huge issue.
But even
Yeah,
though it is an existing lot, it's all weird, and it's
Right.
better
Yeah.
not to. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I don't want to touch anything with it.
yeah. I mean, you couldn't definitely do it the other night, but it got me thinking like, well, what are we going to do with that? And like, there's people who own it. They're going to want to like, either get their money back or do something.
Yeah,
Like, it's
I
not
mean,
just sit
but
there forever.
part of that, that's not our problem.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the board would be open to working with people, but it's like that's the subdivision and it requires a road through there if
Yeah.
people want to access their land. So
So basically, it sounds like the old covenant has to be dissolved, and they come up with some new subdivision from Century Mill, not associated with the other side or something,
Mhm.
something like
I
that.
don't even know.
Yeah.
It's a whole new development effort, I think.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Anything else anyone has? Okay, not, then I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hey,
All right.
Okay. So next meeting, March 12th,
12th.
continuation. Yep, continuation of this hearing, and when do we need to vote on the bylaws by Pam?
We should vote on them on the 12th.
Okay. So we'll have to circulate any changes, any feedback we get tomorrow. So Pam, you and I can talk about that to see if we want to change anything.
Yes. And then we still are awaiting town council comments. I'm expecting them
Right.
by March 6th.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, we'll see everyone on the 12th then.
7 or 7:30 on the 12th.
Oh,
you could go back to your
Probably-
normal 7:30 was just for me in basketball, so you could go to the
And
Well,
normal
is
it's-
7.
basketball over?
Basketball is over.
it's whatever. If people want 7 or 7:30, it's up to you. 7:30 is a bit more convenient for me. I don't imagine
was
that
good with
meeting should go
7:30
too
too.
long.
We
How do
we
other
used
people
to,
feel?
I think we used to always do 7:30, but maybe I'm wrong.
We did 7:30 and then we stopped because our meetings were like 3 hours long.
Yeah,
One of the things that again I really try to do is just to keep things a little bit shorter in the meetings. Just-
yeah, we have a meetings to like 10:30. It's getting ridiculous.
Right. And so nobody wants that. So if people are okay with 7:30, we'll do 7:30. If
Yeah.
people need 7, we can do that. But
I like
7:30
7:30.
seems okay. So we'll go back to 7:30 for that. Yeah. All right.
Great. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. We'll talk to you later. Pam, I'll
Thanks.
see you tomorrow.
Yeah, just for your information, the open remote meetings expire March 31st.
Do we need to do something or is it going to get
We have to wait for the state to do
see
something.
what they do? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let us know if you hear anything.
Okay,
All right. Thank you.
great. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.